I give the floor to Tjorven to tell you about killing your darlings.
So hi, I'm Tjorven, and my wife's a witch, but first let me introduce myself. As I said, I'm Tjorven. When you Google me, you will find me on all those social platforms, and this presentation will be on SlideShare within a couple of days. I'm one of the co-founders of eMenKa, which we founded with two colleagues 5 years ago. We're now 35 people. And I'm also a co-organizer of Bizcamp. As I said, I'm the co-founder of eMenKa. That's a company we founded 5 years ago, 35 people. That's one story. That's one company, but there are many stories about that company. Because when I tell a story about eMenKa as a sales to a potential customer, that's a different story than one of our employees tells to his friend, or HR to a future employee of ours. So there are many stories to one thing. If eMenKa is one company, and it's 5 years that we're a company now, but still there are different stories about it. Back to my third slide. My wife's a witch. That's a story. That's only 5 words, but that's a story. Is it a good story? Well, I don't know. I know what it is. I know why I said my wife's a witch. But if I now ask every one of you why I said that, I have a whole lot of different stories. So it's not a good story because everyone will leave the room with a different story. First of all, who believes that my wife's a witch? Not many, so I take that as a compliment. Well, she actually is a witch. But still, I want you to end at 20 minutes and go out of the room and think the same story that I want to present now. So if I just say you, my wife's a witch, well, that won't go work because some will think she is actually a witch and she flies on a broom at night. Some think that that's because my wife's ugly. Who thinks that? That's a compliment. Maybe it's because she's a bitch. She bosses me around and makes me do the dishes, and that's why I said my wife's a witch. Even she can be into herbs, so kind of the white witch. It can even be something else. So my story of my 5 words is not very good because you will leave the room with several stories, and that's not a good story. Well, if you're realistic, that rules that out. You cannot actually fly on a broom. Well, I haven't seen one yet. So if I give you more information and she likes it when I say it to her, it adds to the story. Now you have a different story than you had before because, well, I don't know that many women that like to be called ugly, so it can't be that. So the more information I give you, the more my story comes better, or comes the same story I want to tell that you have in your head. If I tell you I love my wife and I think she's the best, well, it can be this. Well, if I'm masochistic, it can be, but I'm not. So she doesn't boss me around. So we still have the herbs thing and, yeah, well, maybe something else. We live in Bizcamp. Maybe sometimes for some people it will ring a bell, but for some it won't. Bizcamp is known as the witches' village because there were a lot of stories about witches in Bizcamp. There were a lot of stories about a lot of villages in the old days that was just to scare people away from the woods or the lake or the pond, to scare the kids away. They said there was a witch there. But in Bizcamp, someone wrote all those stories down, and that's why we are the witches' village. And everyone who lives at Bizcamp is a witch and is proud of it. So it's not a bad thing that my wife's a witch. So if I tell you again the 5 words, my wife is a witch, now you have a different story than you had 5 minutes ago. Why? Because I gave you more information. I filled up the blanks that I left in the beginning. I just filled them up. But it's not the story because is she blonde? Is she brown? And that's just the hair we're talking. Maybe she's small, she's big, she's tall, she's skinny. So it's hardly impossible to tell everything about my wife's a witch because you still have different stories. You will all end up thinking she's blonde, or she's brown, or she's tall. So you filled in the blanks. If I leave blanks, which is hardly impossible not to, you fill them up. And I don't like it because, well, I want to tell a story, one story, and then you leave with all different stories. So why we suck at storytelling? Well, it's basically your fault. Well, that's not it. Because it's impossible to tell everything, you can't guide people to the real truth, because there is no truth. You have always blanks. But what I'm trying to say is that not having blanks is not necessarily a bad thing. You can guide them to your truth. Because if you think my wife's blonde, then that's your truth. I cannot change it until I bring her along and place her here, and you see, oh, she's not blonde. If you leave blanks, people will fill them up. That makes it interesting. Everyone know who this is? Okay, that's when I made the presentation, it was President Sarkozy. Now it's former President Sarkozy. But it's still his wife. Is that a good story? I don't know. Is it a good picture? I'm not a photographer, so I don't know. But I don't think it's a good picture. But if you add blanks, you can make it a good picture. Like this. I don't know what the girls see, but I know what the guys see. Adding blanks can make it more interesting, can make it more fun. So it has to do with the imagination versus reality. If the reality is better than the imagination of the crowd, you have to tell it. If their imagination is better than the reality, just shut up. Because the story, they will make your story better. I'll give you some examples. I drive an Alfa Romeo. If I tell this, everyone has a picture of the car I drive. Probably a red one because I, well, made it into a red one. If this is the Alfa Romeo I drive, I probably should shut up. Because most of you will have a better thought than this one. If I drive this one, I probably should tell you because no one, or I think no one, would think that I drive this car. Another example. I bought a ticket for EuroMillions and I won. I have a lot of friends now. If this is the reality, I probably better not tell it because I won just 180 euros. That's not really EuroMillions. If I really won it, then, well, that's fantastic. And if I say it or not, that's the same that you have in mind because the imagination and reality is the same thing. The last one, but I think you got it by now. If I say I buy my clothes in Antwerp, it's the fashion capital. You can think, wow, yeah, maybe he goes to the designer shops. And if you think that, I would shut up. Because it's not, I go to the Wii and the Zara. So it has to do with the perception, the reality versus the imagination. If you leave a blank, they will fill it up anyway. So if you want them to fill it up, make that they fill it up with better content than you thought of. So if my story is my wife's a witch, I bought a EuroMillion ticket and I won. I drive an Alfa Romeo and I buy my clothes in Antwerp. If I tell the story correctly and I leave the right blanks, this should be the picture that you have in mind. If you suck at storytelling, this is the picture. That's the same thing. It's 4 sentences, but if you leave the right blanks, you get a whole other picture. So if you tell a story, which is important, is that you know your audience. You know there are going to be blanks in your story. It's impossible to tell everything. If I have to tell the story about eMenKa, I have to tell you for 5 years because every single second counts, every detail counts. But I cannot tell you everything, so I have to leave the right blanks in the right place so that your imagination takes over and makes the story even better than it actually is. For example, this picture. If you see this picture, you can think, wow, he's on stage and with a mic, etc. Well, this picture I used for 2 years now, and in fact, that's a picture taken at Beta Group. Who knows Beta Group? Well, Ramon does. Okay. There you have startups pitching for themselves, and at the end you have live tweets. Live tweets is you can go up stage, go in front and pitch your idea or your thing for 10 seconds or 20 seconds. So there I was pitching for Bizcamp, just to promote Bizcamp for 10 seconds. And Leo took that picture. What I left out of the blanks was that here there's a line full of people. But that doesn't make me look good. So I cut the picture there, and everyone thinks, oh my God, he's presenting on stage. Well, it's true, but it was for 20 seconds. So I left it blank. Another story I want to tell is when we started eMenKa 5 years ago, it wasn't very cool to work for a startup. Now it's cool to work for a startup. You're a rock and roll star, and everyone knows the success stories. But then it was just plain stupid to go for a company that didn't exist for 6 months, and just to start there was not, well, nobody did it. But still, we needed employees. So we made up our story. We didn't lie. But the story was, we started in the beginning of the year, which we actually did. We started hiring from August. But in August, we told the story that by the end of the year, we want to be 12 people. So the first person that came to us, he thought, okay, we're August, they want to be 12 people by the end of the year, so I'm number 6. Which he wasn't, because he was number 1. And I remember the first New Year's reception. I had a slideshow with all the customers and all the employees. And Gert was on top of it, on the list. And after the presentation, he came to me and said, why am I on top? I'm not alphabetically the first in the company. He said, no, you were the first to sign. Oh my God, was I the first to sign? I didn't know that. I said, no. Yeah, you didn't tell me. He said, of course I didn't tell you, because you would have hesitated to come. He said, of course. I said, do you now regret having signed? Well, not at all. He said, that's why I kept it blank. So I didn't lie, but it was a better version of the truth. And if he asked for it, I would have told him, but he didn't ask for me, so we didn't tell him. We had the same 2 years ago. You know, IT, that's mainly male, so we didn't have any female in our company. So he came to apply for a job, and we decided not to tell that she would be the first lady. Although it sounds great, first lady. We thought she might not like it. So we kept it quiet, and at the end she asked for it. I said, damn, we can't leave it blank. So we told her the truth, and she wouldn't mind, so she signed eventually. But we planned to make it a blank because we thought it would look better. It was no problem at the end, but when you leave blanks, it makes the story interesting. So why we suck at storytelling, and that's why I want to end with. If you suck at storytelling, it's that you leave blanks to the imagination of the public, and they fill it up with things you don't really want. So be very aware of the blanks you leave.